It's gone. Okay, I can't put it off any longer. Let's get started, guys. Any more latecomers?
Yeah.
Good.
Hey.
Welcome. I've never seen this many of my friends together, so I'm a little bit concerned. Yeah, thank you very much for coming along, guys. It's very informal tonight. Originally, I had planned to do, basically to write a book and read it out to you, but it's never going to happen.
That could take some time.
Okay, so, and for those of you that do know me, I tend to procrastinate a lot, so I do need a deadline. So in reality, that's what tonight is. It's a deadline to revisit a lot of the material on the trip and just to freestyle, talk it through. There's going to be a couple of videos, but it's not about playing like a whole bunch of videos tonight. Pictures, let's just take it from there. Every sort of large chunk of the trip, like when we get to Istanbul, you can ask questions about that first section of the trip, so on and so forth. Sure you guys are going to have lots of questions? Yeah? Okay. Is anyone waiting for anyone? So am I expecting any more latecomers?
My mum.
Yeah, okay. Right. I can see how this is going to go tonight. Okay, as I said, I did prepare a whole bunch of notes, but I don't think I'm going to use them tonight, okay? So bear with me. Like I said, this is not a finished product. This is actually the beginning of the process of revisiting the trip. A lot of this stuff I've only re-looked at for the first time in the last few days, so it's kind of new to me as well. There is, of the videos that I have selected that we will possibly watch, there's 100 of them. So we're not going to watch all of those. Hopefully you've all got plans for later tonight, have you? Yeah. Okay. We might be changing that. This could go on for 4 hours. I'm going to try and make it go for an hour and a half, realistically. We maybe have a break in between. So if you need the bathroom or you just want to get the hell out of here, then you can do that. Okay, so where does it all begin? It begins at the start in London. That's not London. For anyone that used to come to my old flat, and Isabel, my old flatmate, he just mentioned this is the map that was on my wall, and this I've had this for quite a while. I had this when we were living over in Austin-Glen, and yeah, map was on the wall. I thought actually I might just ride through those countries. So there we go. That's how I got started. But before I left, I had to do a few things. I had to get a bike. Had to do a test ride. I rode from London to Land's End in 4 days. Learned how to build a beer can barbecue, which I never used on the whole trip. And just in general, was getting my confidence ready, building up psychologically. I mean, I wasn't even sure I could ride to Land's End in 4 days when I did this. So it was step by step. And then I unfortunately handed my notice in. Where's David? There you are. Sorry, David. So this was last April, I guess, and from then on it was actually definitely going to happen. So I guess the best place to start is saying goodbye to London and where we started, which was just out the front here. Now, on the 8th of July last year, this is me jumping on the bike for the first time. There's John in the background. There's Pete. Pete couldn't be with me tonight, but I will actually just play you a clip now. I'm going to try and save the videos sort of for big chunks, and we'll just go through them bit by bit. But I would like to play you this one now because it sort of gives you a good understanding of what went on. Okay, let's hope this works. Here we go. Alright, it's videoing now.
Okay. Everybody wave. I know. Which way are we going? Hey? Yeah. That way?
Straight up.
Hey? What, we gone? Come on, where are we going? That way? Hey? I'm not running! No!
The rest of the clips are much more steady than this. This is Pete
Hey?
filming, so.
We'll take the first bit easy. Oh.
Cheers, man.
There you go. Right, off to Australia, here we go. Yeah.
Okay. Now, unfortunately, Pete was going to be here, and I thought that'd be quite a nice moment, but yeah, he's got other things to do, so stuff him. Right. That was the beginning of the hardest day on the journey, and when I came down to Southbank Centre Square, I had all my bags. I'd kept some stuff over here overnight. Brought it down, brought my bike out. I couldn't make any eye contact with anyone because I was just too nervous, and I just wanted to get on the bike. And it was a combination of lots of things. Okay, that's my chance to get out of here. It was a combination of lots of things. The fact that I wasn't going to see you guys for so long, and also just the fact that I had to get on and do what I'd said I was going to do. So many people in the pub for the previous few months. So I did it. That was definitely the hardest day for a lot of reasons. First day on the bike, I decided to ride 100 miles in the first day from London to Harwich, where I was going to get the ferry to Holland. Obviously, for those who know me, Harwich has other connotations. It's quite an emotional place. For various reasons, I spent a bit of time there in the past. So lots of things like this. It meant I was sort of in floods of tears about an hour or two after this. But you don't see that. You just see all the good bits. So once I got on the ferry and made it to Holland, the trip really began, and I was in my element. But that first day was definitely the hardest. Okay. So the first 10 days of the trip was making it to making it to Nuremberg. I had some friends in Nuremberg. Spent a week there. So I had 10 days continuously on the bike. I was getting into the swing of things. I was getting fitter. But in reality, I was still attached to London in lots of ways. I was checking my phone all the time. I was seeing what my mates were up to. And I just hadn't really disconnected. And that's something that became quite important in the journey, was to sort of let London go. But it took 10 days to do that, and various other circumstances. But yeah, let's move on. So this is me in Holland. Should I play? I'm not going to play rude now, am I? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it didn't take very long before I started talking to myself. When you're on the bike for so long, this is like, I actually found myself quite funny a lot of the time. Yeah, first sign of madness, yeah, definitely. So let's just go straight in with it. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Aaron, by the way. And I'm that crazy guy who rode the bike. This isn't me, or this is me, but this is me pretending to be someone I'm not. And
hello there, this is your friendly tour guide, Ruud. You're on the Vincent van Gogh way, and Vincent van used to ride his bicycle along here, take it for a spin, and he once gave his mate Paul Gauguin a backie down this road, so we're stopping to take in the scenery.
South Africa?
It's pretty good, eh?
Okay. Now, for some reason, everybody liked this guy, so I had to bring him back when I was in Turkey. So he does reappear at other points, but there's not much to it, okay? When you just speak like this, it's pretty simple. But where am I from? Sorry, I'm from Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how long were you in London?
I was in London for 11 years, hence the very thick Australian accent I still have. And yeah, there's many reasons why I decided to cycle back, but we will get there hopefully. Okay. So this is Holland. First night camped in the desert in Holland, as you do. There was lots of rain, but it was a lot of sand as well. This is my friend Jewel. This is her dog Toff. We stayed there. Jill is a documentary filmmaker and whole point of me going on this trip, and the reason I was calling it the Explore More project, is I didn't want it just to be a holiday. I wanted to actually actively do something and try and learn to make documentaries. It's a bit of a passion I have. I wanted to use this as a stepping stone to sort of maybe making that a career. Didn't kind of work out that way. I started doing lots of interviews, but I also was doing the sort of selfie shots of me cycling along, which was a bit self-indulgent. It was mainly just for my own record. But a lot of my friends seem to prefer that instead. So the interviews I kept doing throughout the trip. I ended up doing 14 interviews, mini documentaries, about 3 minutes. And they will see the light of day at some point. But there's just a whole lot of other footage to get through as well. Just to give you an idea, I've got two terabytes worth of video. Some would say that's a little self-obsessed. And as I said, I've had to go through a lot of this in the last couple of days. That's why I haven't slept, and that's why I've had a lot of coffee. It was my birthday 2 days ago, and I got quite a bad hangover too. So, made it into Germany. Germany, there was Rugby World Cup, not Rugby World Cup.
Germany? Rugby?
The Football World Cup. So it was the Football World Cup, it was the final. I stayed with this lovely Dutch couple, Louisa and Ludwig, on warm showers. For those of you that don't know, there's a website called Warm Showers, and it isn't as kinky as it sounds, okay? It's for touring cyclists. It's like couch surfing, but it's for touring cyclists, and it is what it says on the tin. You get a warm shower, you get somewhere to stay for the night. So they kindly put me up. Now they're Dutch, and I thought, yeah, we're going to go down the pub, this is going to be great, the final in Germany. Germany's going to win, it's going to be crazy. They don't drink. We sat around watching it on their tiny little laptop on their kitchen table, and then we went to bed when Germany won. And all around the neighbourhood there was like fireworks going off, there was cars honking their horns and stuff. And I was laying in bed just thinking, okay, you know, it's not all about partying all the time. So I continued on down the Rhine, Bingen am Main. That's just a little, little personal reference there. So I went to camped in a place called Butthard. So after 900 kilometres, it's quite fitting. I also passed through Regensburg, and this was the last day before arriving at Nuremberg. So it was the 10th day on the trip, and lots of things combined to make that quite a hard day. I had 2 crashes in the morning. These were the only 2 crashes that I had on the whole trip, because I was kind of distracted. I was still returning back to London in lots of ways mentally, and well, one of them was just a foolish. I went to do a U-turn at about 2 miles an hour. Hit the gutter. My feet didn't come out of the pedals, and I hit the ground. Now my bike is loaded up, as you can see. The bike itself is 14 kilos, plus there's 40 kilos of bags on top of that. So it hits the ground with quite a thump. Luckily, this only happened twice in one day, though, unfortunately. So the second one was even better. Late that afternoon, just outside Nuremberg, quiet road, small little downhill, no cars at all. I thought, I'm going to test out the balance of the bike here and see if I've evenly packed the panniers on either side. So the best way to do that is to cycle for 20 seconds with my eyes closed down the road. By the time I got to 19 seconds, a tree branch hit me in the face, and I ended up in the bushes. But it was also, I was still thinking about London a lot, and I was still sort of doubting my ability to make it all of the way. And also, after a week in Nuremberg, the endorphins that I'd had for the last 10 days subsided, and I actually sort of went into, not depressed, but I was actually feeling quite down for that week in Nuremberg. Anyway, this guy, however, this is Jürgen. Now Jürgen is an alcoholic, and Jürgen I happened to chance upon in Regensburg, and he offered me a beer, and it was exactly what I needed at the time because I was feeling quite down. Really picked my spirits up. So thank you, Jürgen. He was one of the first of thousands of people I met in the year on the road that really made the journey worthwhile. So, we're not going back to Germany. So, Nuremberg, this is mate Hiram. This is Anna, who's down the back there. Spent a week in Munich. We helped devise Anna's little theatre show there. I also did an interview with a really cool surfer called Antonia. This was the first proper interview that I did on the journey. It's actually probably the only one that I've finished at the moment, but as I said, there's 13 more to come at some point. This is me leaving Munich. By the time I left Munich, I was feeling like I'd made that first step in the journey, and I wasn't thinking about London so much. And I'd made it to Munich, which meant actually I think I could probably make it to Istanbul. So it was the first time that I genuinely thought maybe I'll actually go all the way. So Austria, country number 4. Lots of hills. Went in.
The sound of music.
Not quite, no. The sound of sweating and panting, and yeah. I should go back actually and play you something before we get to the hills, because I am aware of we're only in Austria and already taken 20 minutes to get there, but hopefully we'll speed up in a second. Okay. Firstly, not much, very short clip.
Hey, here in Rodenburg.
There you go. That's Jürgen. I'll play a few videos now. Got a flat tire 3 days in. Well, you should all bear witness to the fact that this is the first. No, we don't need to bear witness to that. So I got a flat tire, but it was really good because in the back of my mind, I hadn't changed the tire on this bike. I'd done a big test ride, but really wanted to actually feel a bit more connected with the bike. Now the bike became like an extension of my own body. This bike was amazing. It cost me £2,000. So a big investment, but would have wanted to do the journey on any other bike. I didn't name it, and I met a lot of other cycling tourists in the year while I was away that had names for their bikes. By the time I sort of came around to thinking I should name it, I thought, actually don't do that because you probably jinx it. But yeah, I wanted to actually get my hands on it and take the tyres off and fix it. So I was quite glad that happened 2 or 3 days in rather than a month in. So it helped give me confidence on the bike. I'm just going to play an initial video that Jewel, my friend in the Netherlands, interviewed. So I interviewed her, and you've probably seen, maybe you've seen that. She also interviewed me, and nobody's seen this. And this is me at the beginning of the journey, a couple of days in, very unsure of myself. Yeah, let's just watch it. I've just started a project called the Explore More Project, and I'm cycling from London potentially all the way to my family home back in Brisbane in Australia. Positive, huh? Positive. It may take 9 months. If I make it all that way, it may take longer. But the idea is to cycle as much as I can. Snappy, come on. Meet interesting people along the way, learn new skills off them, interview them, and hopefully make some short documentaries.
So what does potentially mean?
Good work,
potentially to Australia. Does that mean that you, what does that mean?
It's a long way to Australia. There may be some problems that come up along the way. I mean, it depends on how much money I still have by the time I get to India in 6 months' time. I'm riding a bike. Who knows what could happen? If you didn't know that already. Or, I might meet people along the way. I might decide, actually, I might meet people, and then what I need to do, whatever I set out to achieve, I feel like I've reached it. I'm not just anything. I'm just going to play another one. Guten Morgen. Today is Wednesday, the 16th of July. I've just made it to the top of my first hill. It doesn't look like much, but it's probably the biggest climb I've done so far in over a week. Just outside Darmstadt, which I camped in the woods, quite dark and scary woods, last night. This is really a nice little clearing there, so that was lovely. Okay. I'm going to keep heading east. I can already see there's plenty more hills if you look that way. We should be in for an interesting day. Still carrying too much weight on this bike, so it's going to be a struggle. Should just say no apologies for the beard, but massive apologies for the bandana. So, what do you notice about that? Because I noticed someone who is just really unsure of himself. You can come in if you want. It's, okay, any more videos for this bit? No, let's... made it over the Austrian Alps. So from that first hill, I got stronger in my legs, and then it became sort of gradually easier. By the end, I rode over so many huge mountains. That, looking back on that little hill now, seems ridiculous. But again, it's all about these little incremental steps, and you cross over certain borders, or you go up certain hills, and then over bigger mountains. And it's a bit cliche, but that's kind of what it's all about, breaking it down day by day. So, not going to show you that, but I will show you one more from here. So I recorded this, as I said, there's about 2 terabytes worth of stuff. I also had a GPS on my bike, so every day I recorded the route. You can look it up there's a website called Strava, you can check out all the elevation and everything. Lots of photos on Instagram, things like that. I also did some audio diaries. Now, it took me 44 days to realise that I'm not good at writing a diary. But what I found quite easy was to do an audio diary on my phone. So every day, pretty much every day, I recorded for about 15-20 minutes of me just talking to myself. Now, this is really good in lots of ways because I can record tiny little details throughout the day, and I can hear certain things in my voice that I'm not going to play you any of these, by the way, so don't worry about that. It's better for me than just reading something I've written, reading a diary entry. So I did this, and I found this really valuable. But I've got 300 days of this, and it's about 20 minutes each. So if I was to listen back to it, and at some point I will listen back to it because I do want to pick up all these little details that I've forgotten, then that's 5.5 days of continuous me saying yeah. Why did I tell you that? I've got no idea. Oh, the video thing. Not every take I took in the first few weeks, particularly, was a good take. I was trying to be something. I was trying to be better in front of the camera and sort of get my confidence. Here's an example of a take just not working. So this is me crossing
A lot of cars around. Not the most scenic border crossing. Huge day today, heading into the Alps. Huge day today. I leave Germany behind.
So there you go. There's most of the 2 terabytes is of that kind of stuff. So okay, back to some more photos. So Austria, yeah, it's all right. Didn't really meet too many people in Austria. I did, however, meet these awesome guys. This is Marcus and Lena, and that's them outside the front of their house under their pear tree, which that afternoon the pear tree got chopped down. Yeah, it's life, huh? So these are the Austrian Alps, and I didn't ride over there. I rode over different roads, which was slightly not as high, but still quite high. And then I had to take a train through a tunnel, which I felt quite weird about. It was the first time I hadn't ridden on the bike, and it was only 10 kilometers, like a 10-kilometer tunnel straight through. It was the only way I could get across the Alps, but yeah.
The Brenner tunnel.
No, it was something else. Had a rude name. Bad Gastein was what it was called. Okay, so I made it into Slovenia. Pretended that I'd made it into Australia, but that was miles off. But when I was going through Slovenia, already in my head I was getting lots of thoughts of, this looks quite familiar, this looks a bit like Australia, or when I get to Australia it'll be really good. And it was somewhere that I hadn't thought this much about my home country for so long. Had a lot of time on the bike to think, just a lot of space and a lot of free time to really get my thoughts in order. By this point, I was super happy. I was drinking radlers every afternoon. If you don't know what a radler is, it's a shandy. So at some points, I'd actually exchange the water bottles for radlers, and I'd late in the afternoon, as the sun was setting, I'd crack open a radler.
How many days in are you at this point?
Sorry, yeah. All of this stuff is in the notes, but sort of gone out the window. So at this point, when I hit Austria, I was 1 month in. That also includes a week in Nuremberg and a week in Munich as well. So it actually only take two weeks to ride this. That was bad grammar, wasn't it? It actually only taken 2 weeks to ride that far. That is the same picture from the previous one, so I don't know why I've got that there as well, but this was a particularly tough hill. It doesn't look so steep, but I mean, it was proper steep, this hill, so take my word for it. Right, questions about camping? Because I can talk all day about camping if you want, or I can skip over it right now. I camped wild a lot. Occasionally, especially in Europe, I did stay in some paid campsites. But for the most part, I pitched up in the dark, just found some woods somewhere and just put my tent up, which is fine. And I really enjoyed that. The downside to that is when you're camping wild, you're sort of trying to be discreet and not be seen by anyone else, which means you kind of have to do it in the dark. I think on the whole trip, I only set my tent up about 5 or 6 times before the sun had gone down. So, but yeah, this is what I look like in the morning, by the way. So let's move to the next slide, quick smart. This just gives you an idea. It might look like carnage in there, but this is an organized carnage, okay? Every night when I got in the tent, and I don't know this, I didn't deliberately do this, but it just became a bit of a habit to put bags and things in certain places, so that in the middle of the night, if I woke up, I could basically just reach out and I knew exactly where I could find stuff, which also went a long way to making me feel much more comfortable in the tent. So by this point, and for the whole journey, I would cycle a long day and I would feel completely exhausted, but I'd also feel really rewarded because it's really simple. You get up, you make some food, you cycle, you make some more food, you cycle some more, you put up your tent, you make some food, you go to sleep. Happy as Larry, okay? Now, why did I tell you that? Why did I tell everybody that? Getting in the tent felt super comfortable. I could be in a ditch by the side of the road, and I was in a ditch by the side of the road a lot of the time. But getting in that tent and in my sleeping bag felt so comfortable. So yeah, that's.
Did you concerned about being disturbed during the night camping?
Thank you for asking that very important question, David.
Or anything like that,
Do you ever wake up to any shotgun toting farmers or guard dogs?
Okay, let me put it this way.
All scary, humans or animals.
Think about it. I'm camping in the middle of nowhere in the woods. If somebody stumbles across me in the dark, in the middle of the night, I'm the weirdo. They're not the weirdo. So, for that reason, I actually felt quite safe. I'd hear noises, and especially when you're in a tent and the wind blows, and sometimes, even in Australia, like towards the end of the trip, well actually, especially because I was in Australia.
Because everything's poisonous?
Yeah, because everything's out to kill me, but the wind would rustle, and everything sounds so much louder, and you just think, oh, there's definitely a bush pig outside that's going to run through the tent in a minute. And you look out 2 or 3 times, no, nothing, flash your torch around, no, nothing, go back to sleep. So yeah, it's...
So was it mostly like public land for forests and not like farmers' fields and things like that?
Some farmers' fields, yeah. Depends where I was. I mean, Australia, it's just, yeah,
Sure.
just the bush. So
What did you do with your bike when you were in the tent?
I left it outside, casually lying on the grass like that. I did lock it a lot of the time, just because I thought, well, I'm in the middle of nowhere, but still, I'd look like a complete idiot if my bike got nicked.
What do you use for toilet paper?
So what did you use for toilet paper?
I've got a video.
I was curious, how much?
What do you mean? I use toilet paper for toilet paper.
I didn't know she asked the question.
She left before she got the answer.
I was saying, how much food did you carry with you routinely versus stopping at grocery stores or whatever?
In the first few weeks, see you, Miff. In the first few weeks.
I'm back, I'm just tired.
Okay. Can you bring some toilet paper? In the first few weeks, I loaded up. I went to the supermarket. I'd carry lots of stuff. I carried a tin of tomatoes from the Netherlands to must have been like Croatia or something. And I just, this is ridiculous. I need to open this tin of tomatoes and eat it. And then eventually I learned just buy what you need for that day or for the next day. And think ahead. Okay, there's going to be a shop this afternoon. Then you buy stuff there. So that's how I did it. I've got my Steve Irwin mess bag here. If anybody, not a particular fan, but you know, got a. Yeah. Anyway.
How did you budget that? In terms of buying stuff and...
Should we go through all this now?
No.
Do you really want to know the budget?
Carry on going.
Because I'll probably forget it anyway, so might as well tell you. All up, the trip cost me, including the bike, about 10 grand. £10,000 for a year. Including the bike and all the gear. So actually £6,000 after, you know, I bought the bike and all that kind of stuff. I did keep a budget. And I was quite strict with it for the first. It was 20 euros a day, which is fairly, you know. I stayed in accommodation sometimes. Stayed in a hotel when I need to charge stuff, like a really cheap hotel or a hostel. But yeah, I roughed it, but I met people who roughed it a lot more. But they weren't the most fun people to travel with. So okay. Sorry, another question.
Yeah, sorry, just it's the engineer here, but how did you keep your phone charged? I cycled 25 minutes to Clapham Junction and it knocked 30%.
Did you have a solar panel?
There's
Strava kills the battery.
Good question. Good question. Sorry, guys. There's a year's worth of stuff I'm trying to condense into now, so there is going to be stuff that I forget here. On the back here, behind this German flag that I picked up on the road, is a solar panel.
Okay.
Now, of all the things I actually took with me, the solar panel is probably the least useful because there's a battery inside it that every time I stayed somewhere like a hostel, I would actually charge up and it would last a couple of days. I only actually needed to charge a battery from the solar panel maybe a handful of days. So if I was to do it, it's a really cool piece of kit, but
You just buy a bunch of battery packs next time and
Yeah.
charge them all at once.
yeah, that's a much easier way of doing it. So
Aaron, did you meet any other cycle tourists who had a hub charger?
I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
What did they say about it?
It ruined their phone
Really?
because they don't get a constant current,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's,
So you just, absolutely support.
yeah. So for those of you who are heading out next summer, don't take a solar panel. You don't need it. You heard the ice cream story? Shall I tell you the ice cream story, or have I bored you all with the ice cream story before? See, some of you like, oh, ice cream story, yeah.
Ice cream.
The shorter version of it is basically. Let me actually go back and show you a couple of videos because I. Okay, so I cycled through Slovenia, spent some time in Ljubljana, then cycled from Ljubljana to Zagreb in a day, hung out with a whole bunch of stoners for a week, which wasn't my choosing, but this is what happens when you stay at a hostel for a week in Zagreb. Then after that, hello Miff, we're in Zagreb now, okay. So, what was I saying? Blah, 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 blah. Ice cream. After Zagreb, I started doing the audio diaries. The following day was the first time I got caught in a lightning storm. I got caught in 2 lightning storms. Both of them, I swear, I thought I was going to die. Seriously. And I don't want to sound melodramatic, but I was freaking out. So the first one, I set up my tent, I put my tent in a field outside this little village in Croatia, and I rode through the ugly part of Croatia, not along the coastline. I rode through the northern back end of Croatia, heading towards Bosnia. There's lots of bullet holes, shrapnel wounds in all the buildings. It's a little bit grim. There's not a lot of young people. Everyone's old there. Anyway, camped on the outside of this town at night. Massive electrical storm in the distance, but it looked like a long, long way away. It's like couple of hundred K at least. I woke up at 3 in the morning. Could hear it was getting louder. Woke up at 5 in the morning, and the lightning was all around me. And this is a big open exposed field. There's forests all around it, and I'd actually decided not to camp in the forest earlier that evening. Thought I'll be out in the open field. This is safer if the storm does come. Storm came, and it was to the point where I got loads of gin here. I'm fine.
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
Thank you, mate. Okay, what was I saying? How are we going for time? Right. We're still in Europe. Yeah, unfortunately, we're still in Europe. Lightning storm. Huge lightning storm. Had to get up. Well, before I got up, I thought it's safer if I just take off my jacket and stick it over my head and get as flat on the ground inside my tent as I can. And I was just counting the time in between the lightning strikes, and it was flashing all around. In reality, it was probably like a kilometre away, and it was landing in the forest where I decided I wasn't going to camp the night before, so that was quite lucky. Got up at some point when I thought the storm's kind of slightly moving away, packed my tent down as quick as I could, got the hell out of there, made it to the village, bit shaky, but I was safe. So, then I made it to the border. It's coming, it's coming. You need to watch this first. It's Friday the 22nd of August. I'm here on the bank of the River Sava, and this is the Croatian-Bosnian border. Bosnia over there. I'm still in Croatia, but the river is the border into Bosnia. There's a lady riding a bike across here. To be honest, the unknown really. That's a country I've never been to before. All the countries so far I've at least sort of visited briefly. From here on it gets interesting. I will be honest, I have a little sense of trepidation about crossing this river. It's only a small river, it's only a small bridge, but once I get over there, there's a lot of what ifs and a lot of uncertainty about what could happen. To be honest, it's probably exactly the same as it is over this side. And it was. But at the time, I saw a woman riding across on the other side. I was like, wow, that's Bosnian old woman riding a bicycle. Wow, that's cool.
But you thought there was no ice cream on the other side?
Yes, and found out. I'll get to the ice cream story eventually, guys. But when I did cross the border, it was stepping into the unknown. Every country I'd been to at that point, I'd already been to, and Bosnia was the first country. And you hear things about the war from the 90s and stuff, and you can't help. The same when I crossed into Kosovo, same when I crossed into Iran as well. You have these. You get this stuff from the media, and you just think, oh, I'm going to get mugged. Like when I crossed into Kosovo, I swore, this is it. I'm going to get mugged by gypsies or something. And that is a really horrible stereotype to have, because Kosovo is awesome and it's super modern, and it's nothing like that. But I look back on this and I cringe now because it's. Yeah, I wasn't to know any better, but yeah. So, but the big difference in Bosnia was the roads were really narrow. There were loads and loads of trucks. It was the first time, I got used to it eventually because I rode on a lot of dodgy roads, but that was the beginning of the dodgy roads in Bosnia. Was pretty freaked out by the time I eventually got to Tuzla, where my mate Emir, some of you guys know Emir, he was visiting his parents. Emir is from Bosnia. He is Bosnian. Didn't need to say that twice, did I? When I made it to Tuzla, I was a little bit shaky. I hadn't met him yet. Had a really stressful day, and this guy came up this really isn't going to be worth it, by the way, the ice cream punchline. The guy came up and he asked me, "Hey, you're a stranger?" And I went, "Well, not exactly. I'm, travelling around. I'm quite a nice guy, but yeah, okay, I'm a stranger. Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah." And he could see, he was walking down the street with his wife, and he sort of came over to me, and like this. And he said, like we didn't have a common language. He didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Bosnian. And he said something along the lines of like, I could understand that when he was younger, when he was a boy, he did a similar trip. He rode across Yugoslavia over the mountains with his friends, and his eyes lit up. He's like, "Oh wow, someone else on the bike." Blah, blah.
How did you work that out without him speaking to you in English?
It's common sense. Language is just common sense, isn't it? Just read the signals and stuff.
That's a pretty complicated story.
So he then, no, I'm just making all this up. So he went away, and I was like, "Oh, this is really nice," because I felt quite like, Bosnia. I hadn't really spoken to anyone that day. Loads of big trucks passing me, narrow roads. Felt a bit sketchy. Thought I was going to get killed by a truck all day. And then this guy came up, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice. Bosnian people are nice." Because Croatia was a little bit. They didn't really. I didn't really warm to Croatians. They didn't really warm to me. It was just like the rest of Europe. Up to that point, it was just a bit cold. It was like, especially Germany. No, Germany was great, by the way. Anyway, you get the idea. He came back and he gave me an ice cream. He'd already taken a few licks of the ice cream. He got it off his wife, and he sort of came back and gave me the ice cream. And for me, that was like a really nice moment. That was, it tasted very sweet. How cheesy is that, eh? Okay, right.
And then he mugged you.
And then he mugged me, yeah. No, then his wife mugged me. So give me back my ice cream. So this is some of my friends from Zagreb. Nothing useful there. This is the Sava. This is the river that I crossed in the bridge. Okay, this is in Tuzla. That's the ice cream. These are some of the houses that I passed along the way. This is Tuzla. Tuzla's in the north of Bosnia. We drank a lot of this stuff. This is plum and cherry brandy. Plum and walnut brandy, sorry. Burek and cheese sticks. I ate a lot of burek. It's called lots of names all across Europe and even further, but yeah, it's meat-filled, cheese-filled pastry. I spent a lot of time eating stuff in bakeries the world over. Okay, I've been to so many bakeries. I could write a book about the best bakeries from London to Australia. So, went to a football match. It quickly turned into a riot. There were flares set off. Football match got cancelled. Emir just goes, "Yeah, this is a normal game." So that's Bosnia. Okay, this is Emir. This is Emir looking. He wrote me before I left London. He gave me some instructions, saying, "Oh, yeah, Tuzla, you when you get here, you go over the roundabout, and then you see the big power station, and then you're almost there." So this is that's his mum with a broken leg in the top corner. That's a plasma cake, which is delicious, which she made. Plasma. If you have never had a plasma cake. How did I know?
How did you know
Emir was the bass player in my old band. So, welcome to Tuzla. Welcome to Tuzla. I already said that, so. Crossing Sava. What else? So when I was making the videos, I said, "Oh yeah, I want to do the documentaries. This is what the main focus is." And then it sort of became more about myself as well, my journey. And in a way, it was like documenting, studying myself for a year. I became much more confident, much more comfortable with who I am, sort of through watching these videos back as well. I did say to my friends that I don't want to be one of those guys who ends up crying on the video. "Oh, I'm so lonely, blah, blah, blah." But quite quickly I did, so just all of a sudden just feeling a bit lonely. Thinking about my family and certain people, and yeah.
quite like a bit of company right now.
Oh, shut up, you sook.
Maybe it's just because I'm hungry and feel a bit down. But yeah.
It was because I was hungry. It was genuinely because I was hungry.
Mum and my dad and my sister. I'd quite like to see them right now.
Now, I know it might seem a little like I was actually doing something else, and it just sort of the emotion sort of hit me. It wasn't like I was like, okay, cry now, cry now. Okay, that's enough crying.
How long had you been gone? How far?
So I'd been in Sarajevo. So after Tuzla, I cycled down to Sarajevo, and I spent a couple of days there. One thing I should say is every time I ride in big chunks and I do big distance each day, I averaged about 100k a day for 140 days of cycling, but I was away for 354 days. So majority of the time was spent meeting people, hanging out, being lazy, drinking. The other 140 days was cycling and serious cycling. When I did stop in a place, it became a bit of a habit to stay a few extra days and then a few extra days, and it got harder and harder, which, yeah, I'll talk about this when I write my, something like that. Okay, let's skim through this. So there's Sarajevo. Oh, Sarajevo. When I arrived, this might sound a bit cheesy, but I came over the hill and it looked like the Milky Way. It was just amazing. Like all the lights up on the hills, because it's Sarajevo, if you've been there, it's very steep hills all the way around. So when the lights are on at night, it's just, I was like, wow. Anyway.
What's that in the bottom left-hand corner?
That's the left-hand corner, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Actually, when I was in Tuzla and Sarajevo, it was the missing link between Europe and Turkey, and I really felt that. Lots of mosques. I heard my first call to prayer. This is a really cool church, clock tower. It's not a church tower, and it doesn't tell the time. It tells the time until sunset. How cool is that? And it has to be adjusted every day. So that's Sarajevo. That's where World War I started, on the bridge, or just near the bridge there. Shot of Sarajevo. Okay, and then we're into Montenegro. So Montenegro was stunning. It rained every day. It was up and down. There was not a single straight road or a flat road, but it was some of the best cycling. The roads were really quiet. There were lots of tunnels, but because there were no cars, it was fine. I went through some tunnels. They carved roads out of the mountain where you go into a corner and you come out doing a complete 180. Like, for me, I'd never been through a tunnel like that where you actually go, yeah, anyway. For me, that's cool. For you guys, that's probably not cool. Sorry. It's a fox. It's all right.
Was he okay?
Yeah, he was fine. He was fine. I nursed him back to health.
Was it dinner?
Yes. No. So Montenegro, lovely little hamlets up on the sort of plateaus. It's just incredible cycling. Really tough, but I think in 4 or 5 days, just in altitude, I climbed 14 kilometers, like just straight up. So imagine just cycling straight up 14 kilometers over 4 days. That's kind of a cumulative of what I did. This is Alexandra. Some of you, I've told the ship's milk story. As she says it, it's sheep's milk. She offered me some salty sheep's milk, which is a delicacy in Montenegro. It's not a delicacy where I come from. You could taste the meat and the blood still in the milk. It was just really disgusting, and it was salty on top of that. But anyway, she offered me a place to stay for €5 because I was just waiting outside a shop. Actually, her mum came over. Her mum had done some in this tiny little shop. She saw me sheltering out of the rain, and it was a big storm. And she just said, "Oh, we have an apartment we can stay in." My nephew Boris, he's away for the weekend, so you can stay in his apartment for €5. So took up the offer. Alexandra, in return, kept harassing me, trying to practice her English. And then they wouldn't let me leave the next day. They kept giving me loads of honey and apples and various things. And I was like, stay for another night, stay for another night. No, I've got to go. This is my first ladder I saw on the trip. For those of you, some of you know about this, but I became quite fascinated with ladders along the way. Roadkill, loads and loads of roadkill. Not in Montenegro, although in Montenegro I saw dead fox, dead dog, dead cat, 3 dead horses in a row.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I think somebody dumped them there, to be honest. They didn't all just die in the one spot. But this became a bit of a theme for the whole trip. And unfortunately, it's really sad. I cycled down what I like to call the thin white line through so many countries, and you see all the rubbish that's along the side of the road, and that kind of starts from Croatia onwards. There's just rubbish everywhere, in every country. Obviously, not in Australia when I got to the end, but also loads of roadkill. And I saw, apart from like aquatic life, I saw pretty much every animal you can imagine dead on the side of the road, which is not nice. No, I didn't eat it. Okay, Dermator National Park. This is just an idea of sort of 600 metres up to 2 kilometres above sea level. This is up to Jablak, which is the highest town in the Balkans, which I went up there, rode through a cloud, ended up with hypothermia at the end of the day. This is just to give you an idea of sort of the daily altitudes that I climbed. This is in the Tara Gorge, which is just over the other side from the Dermator National Park. Okay, a couple of quick videos. How are we doing? It's 8 o'clock. Okay. Any quick questions about Montenegro while we're...
You say you had hypothermia.
Well, I'm being a drama queen. It wasn't hypothermia, but I was really cold. So after this...
You're wondering where I am? I'm in Montenegro. In a cloud.
So that was 2 kilometres above sea level. That wasn't the only rainstorm I got in. When I left Montenegro, I was heading towards Kosovo, climbed up another mountain range. I've got so many, I've just remembered so many other little details, but that'll have to be for another time. I was climbing up, I could see a storm on the other side of the mountain range, but it looked okay. It was fine where I was. Came over the peak of this mountain, headed down. It was still probably about 5-6 kilometres to the border, the Kosovan border. As I came over the other side, this massive storm, biggest storm I've ever been in. And I know it might sound like I've been a bit dramatic, but the rain was so hard. There was seemed like I was going downhill. The rain seemed to be a couple of inches deep, going downhill, all rushing, flooding off the top of this road. There was cars coming up the other way, a couple of cars, and I couldn't really steer properly. And I was worried I was going to be into the oncoming traffic. Came down, there was lightning cracking all around me, and there's no trees on the top of this. Hey,
Sorry,
how you going?
sorry.
We just got to Kosovo, it's just getting interesting, okay? Then, yeah, I was, again, second time I got caught in an electrical storm, nowhere to hide. The only place I could find to hide was a little, you know when they carve out the side of it, carve out a road in a mountain, they have those sort of rock walls, and there's a little overhang like this, and I was hiding underneath, shaking, shivering, lightning was striking all around. I was thinking, oh, this is it, I'm so exposed, I'm going to get struck by lightning, because the cloud was here, like I was in the cloud, it wasn't like a... Anyway.
But could this be avoided if you looked at weather forecast?
Yeah, probably.
We're glad you didn't.
I learnt eventually that I don't have to always take the hardest route, and I always tend to make things difficult for myself. You know, oh, it'll be fine, just push on, you'll figure it out. I've now learnt as I'm getting a bit older, actually, you don't have to do stupid things all the time. So, but this was one point that I sort of...
Quite dramatic.
It gets better, because I was hiding under this thing, lightning cracking all around. Like there's no towns, there's no people up here, like really high, 2 kilometres up on this top of this mountain. This woman appears out of nowhere, walking down the road with an umbrella very casually. And I'm hiding with my bike on top of me, shaking, visibly shaking. And she yells something out that I think means like she was sort of going like this. So I think 4 kilometers, you'll be safe, you make it to the border. And so I jumped on my bike and I was shaking like anything, and I was, I think this time, for real, I was either coming down with hypothermia or I was actually suffering from shock. So I eventually made it down, and I couldn't stop shaking, got to the border. So I've been through this experience. It sort of lasted 20 minutes, half an hour. Made it to the border, made it to safety. The storm was still going. And the lady at the checkpoint, she asked for my passport. I gave her my passport, and with it, a whole load of water came in the window, because I was completely soaked. And she checked it, and I'm like shivering. I'm going to look at the computer screen. And she's just playing solitaire there on the very casually. And I just thought, such a contrast between like a kilometre up the road, I'm thinking, well, it's going to die, and she's in relative safety in her warm cabin playing solitaire. That's that border story. So the border guards were very helpful. They let me change and get warm, because I was actually getting really cold, and I was a bit worried I was going to come down with hypothermia. They arranged for, there's lots of trucks that were stopping at this border. One of the guys, he'd actually seen me riding the previous night through Montenegro, and he mentioned something to the border guard. They said, oh, it's still big storm, long way down, still 20 kilometers to get to the nearest town down this big hill. Storm's still going, not really safe to keep riding. Can you give him a lift? And he's like, yeah, give him a lift. So Enver, the lovely Kosovan truck driver, he offered me a lift, and so I went from that to sitting in a nice warm cabin with this guy, who, it was really warm in there, and he was listening to some nice chilled out reggae, and we're just like cruising down these big switchback turns down the mountain. Got to Paya, was high on life in this, like checked into this little cheap hotel, was super happy to still be alive, went out for a pizza and beer, celebrated. So that's the second lightning story. Kosovo, as I said before, is amazing, super modern. It reminded me of being back in Germany in comparison to some of the other countries I'd been to. Everything was big, nice new highways, lots of business all along the side of the road. Really young people in the town, all out drinking in trendy little bars and stuff, which was a complete contrast to what I thought Kosovo was going to be. So that's, yeah, I really would like to go back to Kosovo for that reason. Macedonia. Anyone from Macedonia? It's a bit of a dump. I've actually just recently been back to Macedonia, and I do quite like it. And I went back a year after I was there, and I saw it in a different light, and the people are really nice there. I'm going to play a few quick videos. I'm aware of the time, guys, but I will try and speed through some of this. Oh, okay. Wow, so I've literally just made it to Pech, or Paya as it's known. Wow, that was a very interesting last 2 hours. That was incredible. I'm not going to forget that anytime soon. So got to the top of the mountain. You've just heard this. That video goes to half an hour. I was just rambling and rambling and rambling. So what else? Maybe this one. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I smell like a tramp, but things ain't smelling too good. It had been continuously raining for the last 2 weeks. My clothes just didn't have time to dry, so just could do with a good clean. Okay, anyway. Now you all know me a little bit better. Oh, this I quite like. I hope this doesn't go too long, actually. Yeah, so loads of roadkill. Cats, dogs, foxes, anything you can name. 3 horses in a row the other day, various states of decomposition. That stunk like my hell. Lots of slugs. When it rains, lots of slugs get out on the road. And I'm not a fan of slugs. I've got a story about slugs as well. The one animal that I don't mind running over. this afternoon, for the first time, those slugs are now snails. So it's a little bit more obvious when you run over those. So all of Macedonia was crunch, crunch, crunch. Slugs. Okay. When I was in the first 10 days in Germany, there was one night where I woke up and the tent was covered in slugs. Because it was damp, it had been raining or something. Slugs come out, do slug things. And the tent, I shook the tent off the next day in the morning. Thought I'd got most of the slugs off. My camp stove, I'd put the wrong gas in the previous night as well, so that had actually exploded. So I didn't have a camp stove, but that's a whole other story. But I thought I'd got rid of the slugs. Then I was in Nuremberg that following night for a week. I left my tent wet, damp, rolled up for a week. When I came to open it, when I headed towards Munich, oh my gosh, the smell was ridiculous. The smell of dead slugs stayed in my tent all the way to Brisbane. Okay? So just
Febreze.
Yeah, Febreze. I even washed it a few times and I just couldn't get rid of these dead slugs. Okay, now I'd cycle a lot and you get tired towards the end of the day. You feel a little bit silly, or I don't know why it happens, but you just start talking to yourself. You have the sunset hour. All your spirits are high and stuff before you freak out and realise you've got nowhere to sleep for the night. And this is the kind of thing. So the next town that I'm heading to, which is about 20k away, is called Coming Over. As in, g'day Davo, Mick's coming over? Or, hey bro, you gonna come over and watch the footy tonight? Hey, gonna get some beers and fish and chips? Have a right good laugh, eh? Give Bevo a buzz, eh? Anyway, that went on for half an hour as well. Band meeting. How's everything going? Oh, it's pretty good, eh? Coming into a town called Coming Over. What? Like, as in, his bear's coming over for... We've heard this, okay. Right, so... Sofia, let's get to Sofia at least. Come on, let's speed this up a bit. Oh, look, we're there. We're in Sofia. That's not Sofia, but that's Sofia. That's Sophie! Hey, a lot of people know Sophie. So Sophie, my friend, came to visit me in Sofia. How cool is that? She brought with her some cycle wine. I brought with her some plum brandy from Montenegro. And we spent our time going around looking at communist memorials and various other things. Look at this. That's the only time I ever wore that high-vis vest from the Southbank Centre. So some of it was a little bit for show. This is Buzludza. There's across former Yugoslavia, there's lots of these old, what they call spomeniks, and they're the various different types. I stayed in a place called Tengeste and camped out there. I also camped here. I camped underneath, just around the corner here. In order to get there, I had to cycle up 16 kilometers up a mountain. It's a dead-end road. There's nothing over the other side. This has been unoccupied. This is an old Bulgarian meeting hall. They have sort of special occasions once or twice a year, but it's been abandoned for the last 20, 30 years, something like that. So it's falling apart, but it's really cool to explore. And you can sort of climb in. There's a little hole just around the corner here, which I did the following morning. But in order to get up there, I'd already ridden 140k that day. I thought, oh yeah, I'll make it up before sunset. That never happened. It was riding in the dark. And I think this might be your fault, guys, because some of my little researchers down the front here had mentioned that there might be some bears in Bulgaria. You said that quite a few times, actually. You said that in Iran as well. So, but anyway, as I was cycling up there, I was getting tired. I'd had enough of cycling. I was getting a bit delirious, and I was freaking out. I was riding in the dark up this massive mountain up to get to this place, and I was just thinking, any minute now, a bear's going to jump out and get me. Any minute now, a bear's going to jump out and get me. I was even looking at horse manure on the road, thinking, actually, that's a bear dropping. Is that a bear dropping? Are they here? And then I come around the corner, hear something move in the dark. Ah, it's a bear, it's going to get me. And of course, it was a horse. Eventually got to the top, and if you're in Bulgaria, go to Buzlunza. It's really cool. It's really scary as well. It goes down about 3 levels underneath this, and people are spray painted like. Anyway.
What's it for? It was a meeting hall.
Yeah, yeah. But like, it's a place that urban explorers go now, and they go in, and it's full of graffiti as well. Like this is looking directly above, but there's loads of graffiti there as well. There's also like people put weird things like "come downstairs, this is where the zombies live," blah blah blah. Which when you're by yourself, 3 floors down on top of a mountain, and you've only got your torch and you're sort of shining it around, and you see that on the wall, you're like, "Oh, I'm getting out of here now." So this is Papericon in Bulgaria. I climbed up here, and then some lovely people that I'd just been chatting to earlier that day left a beer and a block of chocolate on the back of my bike, which was really nice. And a little note saying you're going to need this to get to Australia. This is Thomas. Thomas is crazy, but he was a nice guy at the time, and we met in Greece, so made it over to Greece. This is outside an IKEA, by the way. We're both standing outside IKEA trying to use the free Wi-Fi. And I made it to Greece, finally. Yay. After how long?
An hour.
Wow, okay, I'm going to have to speed this up. So I made it to Greece, went for a swim, boom, Greece. Made it to Turkey, crossed the border to Turkey. I should explain, I've got a British passport and an Australian passport. I thought, I'll use my British passport because it's like 20 euros cheaper to get the visa. A bit further down the road, that became a big problem. And I will explain when we get there. But when I was in Greece, as you do, made myself a Greek salad. When I got to Gallipoli that night, by the way, Gallipoli, the town itself, is a dump. Don't go there. But they got lots of stray cats, and I gave them the remainder of my Greek salads. I decided to go a bit further down the Dardanelles Strait, and I camped here next to this boat. But this is the following morning. The previous night, I thought I was alone, and I was sort of setting up my tent, and 2 guys walked out in the dark, and this is my first night in Turkey. I was thinking, oh, what's going on here? It turned out to be 2 really nice young guys. They were just sitting down drinking beers on a Friday night, smoking cigarettes, watching the big container ships go up and down at night. So we got chatting. They went to the trouble of jumping on their scooter. They said, "Oh, are you hungry?" I said, "Oh, I'm okay." I was really hungry, but so they jumped on, went back to Gallipoli. 15 minutes later, came back with tomatoes, bread, and a whole bunch of kebabs, and we sat in the boat. And in this boat, we drank beers, ate food, and drank some ouzo that I brought from Greece as well. So that's that. And then I went to Anzac Cove. Anzac Cove was quite emotional. I think there's some videos I've got for that. But all the videos, by the way, they'll come later. There's a whole load of other stuff that I'll piece together. But anyway. Final day before Istanbul, looking a bit sunburnt. This is just as I'd woken up. Yeah, and that's the route. That's just to Istanbul. So that took 11 weeks, including like time off. And yeah, there we go. There's all the countries to get to that point. How are we going? I need to speed this up, don't I? Yeah, okay. So made it to Istanbul. Maybe. Okay.
Skip Asia.
So 100% Dogal is a term. My friend Rodri came out to visit me in Istanbul. 100% Dogal became our catchphrase. It was on containers of milk. It means 100% natural, but everything to us for that week while he was there was 100% Dogal. Yo. So Istanbul. This is from the top of Galata Tower.
Aaron, did you have like an itinerary when you say people came out to visit you?
I sped up when I knew people were going to come and meet me. I'd have to speed up to get there in time. So
how much in general did your schedule of when you expected to be place A, B, C match up to the reality?
A lot of the time, and I was thinking about this even when I was going across Australia. Like that map on the wall, when I was tracing my finger across and showing my friends, oh, this is where I think I'm going to go. In reality, that's actually pretty much where I went. And I wanted to be quite flexible and stuff, but if I was to do this trip again, I would do it in a much more relaxed pace, and I would sort of maybe have less of a plan. But I also thought, actually, the reason why I've gone through all the countries that I said I would have gone through is because I got a lot of time to think ahead and just slightly tweak the route and slightly change my plans a bit. So in the end, it all sort of worked out.
The time sort of matched up as well.
Sometimes I had to skip ahead. When I get on the other side of Turkey, in order to meet Baz and my friend Laura, I had to jump on a train to skip like a day or two of cycling and various other things. So, do you want to explain this, Rodri?
Stairs of death.
This is the Stairs of Death. We got an apartment for the week. Yeah, it was called Stairs of Death. So my good friend Rodri turned up. How romantic does that look? And he also brought this guy with him as well. So
Why didn't you buy him flowers?
well, you know, he's rosy enough. Anything? Do you want to just shout anything out about Istanbul?
Lots of kebabs. I think that's when your budget went out the window.
Yeah, I spent about 500. No, is that maybe it was. I think I spent about 500 quid in Istanbul. Actually, I was in Istanbul for 4 weeks, so not just because of him, but Rodri got his fortune told by a rabbit. What did the rabbit say to you?
Mean as well. It was really mean as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it said all your decisions come from your friends, so you can't make up. Anyway, and we decided to get fake Kemal Ataturk tattoos because he was out here. One of the notes I did have in here though was your guidebook. Your guidebook that said things to avoid. It was basically like avoid everything in Istanbul because this place is not good. Istanbul's amazing. I was there. I loved it. I didn't want to leave. So I spent the first week with Rodri. Then I spent the next week with. Got to show you this before we get to this one. Where is it? Where's Jimmy gone? Okay. So I rented for 2 weeks an apartment off this guy.
Aaron, like you see, here are bed sheets. They are new. It's not used. I know it looks used, but it's not. Okay, and for the rest, forgive me that I have not cleaned totally everything, but I gave my best. I have to catch my flight right now. So, and please, can you take this when it's dry? Can you please take this out in my room somewhere before you go? And you know how to close it. First make like this, and then push it down. Okay then, see you. Have a nice trip.
So that's Jimmy. So if anyone wants a good time out when they go to Istanbul, Jimmy was amazing.
He didn't know you were filming, did he?
No, he filmed that himself. That was instead of sending a text message, he just said, "Oh, just do a video and send it to him." Okay, so after 28 days in Istanbul, spent a good time in Mecidiyeköy and went over to Kadıköy, spent a bit of time in Cihangir with my friend Zeynep and Birgan. This is my birthday breakfast almost a year ago. Zeynep taught me how to make Turkish coffee, a good Turkish coffee, because she's a good Turkish woman. And she also read my Coffee Fortune. Coffee Fortune said, at some point in the next few weeks, you're going to get to a point where the roads are going to go 2 ways. But she meant that in more of a, you can continue travelling like this, or there might be a bit of a detour. Now, at the end of the night, she said, "Oh, that was all rubbish, I just made that up." But apparently, according to what she saw in the Turkish coffee reading, then that's what it is. So this is Zeynep. When I left Istanbul, she traditionally threw a glass of water on the road behind me, and I was on my way. I also clean shaved for the day because at the same time, my good friend Henry Williams, who's sitting right here, was in Cape Town, and he just began cycling from Cape Town north up to Zanzibar.
this is the beer challenge.
This is the beard challenge, yeah. So on this day we synchronized shaves, and for the next, you'll see, okay. Very romantic.
You did the cool like Turkish hot shave.
No, I didn't. I just let it go for 4 months. So Black Sea was great. There was on the first day I struggled through some rain, got to the coast, wind. It was crazy. Really black sand as well. Rubbish on the beach. I was thinking, is this it? Is this the Black Sea? I also decided to finally leave a whole load of stuff that I'd taken with me up to that point that was just clutter. It wasn't so much weighing me down, but I just sort of bagged everything up and ceremoniously left it on the beach for someone else to find. And in it was a compass, and there was also a map, like a paper map that I hadn't really used, but I had traced my route across Europe. So to leave it there, and hopefully maybe realistically, the sea just probably picked it up, washed it away. But I like to think that maybe someone picked it up and went, oh, I'm going to go this way. Black Sea coast.
Why did you not want the compass in? That would seem like a useful thing.
I was getting reckless at this point, so
an app on your phone. Okay.
I was getting reckless. So this is actually the beach that I left the bag on. But then on finer days, I mean, it's beautiful. Black Sea's really beautiful. It's got a really nice feel to it. It's a bit solemn, but yeah, it's a really nice place. It's also very steep. Lots of really short, sharp hills. Climb up for half an hour, 45 minutes, really steep, and then straight down, and you just do that all day long for 2 weeks. I climbed more there than I did across Montenegro, but the mountains weren't so big, but it was just continuous. So starting to get tired, stopped randomly outside a prosthetic surgeon's. They invited me in. That's all. Spent a lot of my time, I was eating chorba, soup, and then I met this guy. So, as Zainab had said, at the point that the road splits, this is where the road split for me, okay? I came to a town called Chide. I'd made it a couple of 100k from Istanbul. I was struggling mentally because I hadn't really planned ahead. I just sort of, my only goal at that point was to get to Istanbul, and afterwards I hadn't really thought much beyond that. And I knew that Iran was coming up. In the back of my mind, I was a little bit worried. This guy turned up. His name's Thomas, and I was sitting in a cafe just having a sweet tea, sweet chai, which eventually wore my teeth down. I had to get lots of fillings done. But anyway, that's another story, which we haven't got time for tonight. But this guy, long sort of blonde hair, came over and spoke fluent Turkish to all the old men in this place, and it was just all old Turkish men, old fishermen on the coast. So, this is a bit weird, he must be Turkish. And then he comes over and introduces himself. He said, my name's Thomas, I'm German, but I've been living here on and off for the last few years, and I fish every sort of summer on the Black Sea with his fishing partner, who's an older guy called Muram, who's a Turkish guy. I've got no one else to speak to. I need a break from speaking Turkish. Would you like to come and stay for the next few days at this little cove where there's a restaurant? We go out night fishing. And I was a bit reluctant to. I was sort of still thinking I need to make sort of progress, need to get to Georgia in time to meet some of my friends. But I decided to stay. This is Muram, and I'm going to show you some quick videos. So we went night fishing, but we had to wait for the right conditions. And Muram he knows how to wait for the right conditions. That involves smoking a lot of cigarettes, drinking a lot of beer, and sleeping. So this is Thomas on the boat. I did an interview with Thomas.
Merhaba, benim adım Thomas. Ben yaş 24'ünde.
Sorry about that.
Ben Türkiye'yi çok seviyorum. Türkiye'de çok gezdim. Çok yolculuk yaptım. Biraz Türkçe öğrendim. Daha iyi öğrenmek istiyorum. 2 seneden beri balıkçı oldum burada. Bilmiyorum neden ama öyle oldu. Şans vardı.
He's not speaking German though, he's speaking Turkish. He's basically saying, telling what he does. He comes out every few years. He really loves Turkey, and he's found a new home with Muram and his wife in this place, and they've really taken him in as a second son. And they also took me in for the next few days. This is Muram. So there's a whole load of that to explore.
Did Thomas speak English as well?
Thomas did speak English, yeah.
Where
Yeah.
is he from?
He was from Germany. He lived in Vienna, but he was German originally. So so this is Gideros, and I'd love to go back there. We would go fishing at night. I was there for 3 nights, and I smoked 3 packets of cigarettes. And I don't smoke, but I was forced to smoke because every time I was on the boat, Moran would light a cigarette, and if he didn't see one in my mouth, he would actually physically put his cigarette in my mouth. So I left Gideros feeling very happy, but very unfit, and my lungs were about to pack it in. This is Moran's wife. The only word she said was muz, which was banana. So this is Moran playing my ukulele. I bought a ukulele which I haggled very well for in Istanbul. Did I not, Rodri? How did my haggling go?
It was like they were like, I can't remember what's the currency.
Lira.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, would you take 98? Yeah.
Okay, so this is the weather turned really bad. It was raining a lot. I was run down. I was really struggling with the climbing, and it got too much. It got to a point where I needed to get to Georgia. Actually, I had an appointment to get an Iranian visa in Trabzon, which is a town on the eastern side of the Black Sea, along the top of Turkey. And I just ran out of energy. Like, I got to a town and I couldn't actually get back on the bike. I was completely spent. So I jumped on a bus and took an overnight bus to Trabzon, which is where I spent the next week in beds in a really cheap hotel, which had regular customers that only used the room for an hour. You get the idea. The reason I was in Trabzon was I needed to get my Iranian visa because I had an appointment to get an Iranian visa. When I got there, to get into Iran, if you're British or American, you can't go unassisted. You need to go through with an escort, and obviously that's not going to happen on a bike. I stupidly had my Turkish visa stamp in my British passport. So when I went to the Iranian embassy, they said, "Where's your Turkish stamp?" I said, "Oh, it's in my Irish passport," because Irish people are fine, but obviously I don't have an Irish passport. So I took took my Australian passport back, went back and got out of town, and had to make another appointment in Tbilisi in Georgia to get my Iranian visa. You don't need to go through all this. So I made it to Georgia, and I hadn't realised at that point how much I had become an outsider in Turkey. I was still very comfortable, and I still really enjoyed it. I was in Turkey for 6 weeks, but by the time I got to the East Coast, by the time I got to the Georgian border and crossed into Georgia, it sort of seeing Georgia made me realise actually I was standing out, and a lot of people weren't so warm to me. They were just, anyway, you get the idea. So I crossed into Georgia, and I thought I was back in Australia because it was a beautiful sunset, there was a coast. I looked over in a field and I could see people playing what I thought was football, and then I realised they're playing rugby union. And then I went down an avenue that in the late afternoon sun was just full of gum trees. I was like, this is very surreal. So I was going to show you a video of that, but we haven't got time for that. So this is me saying goodbye to the Black Sea. Jumped on a train the next day and headed to... Oh, this is the Georgian border post, by the way. This is Laura. This is Baz and the dive bar. You want to say anything about dive bar? We played a lot of beer pong in the dive bar. This is my friend Magda, who I spent a bit of time with, and I also spent a lot of time with this guy. This is Archie. Him and his bandmates. I was in Tbilisi for about 3 weeks. This is kind of the architecture. It's got this sort of shabby chic. Everything's falling down, but the people are amazing, and super friendly.
Why Thomas on the boat was like for you?
Good point. He was much younger than me. He was only 24, but he travelled a lot, and he'd been he'd hitchhiked all around. He'd hitchhiked when he was 17, 18. He'd hitchhiked from Germany to China. And we just spent a bit of time together, and I sort of finally got it. It wasn't about traveling big distances, but it was about spending time with the people. And up until that point, I'd sort of done that, but that wasn't sort of my real focus. And from then on, for the rest of the trip, it wasn't about cycling every single kilometre. It was more about stopping and meeting people and spending. If it meant jumping on a train or a bus overnight to catch up with where I thought I was going to be, in order to spend more quality time meeting people, then that's what I did. So, Baz, beer pong, typical street in Tbilisi, more Tbilisi. Any questions about Georgia? No? Okay. Then I moved into Azerbaijan. I've been there for 3 weeks. I got my Azeri visa. I got my Iranian visa. So I was all set to go. But it was autumn and it was getting cold, and it was snowing the day I left Tbilisi. This is not snow, but this is mist. And it was riding through the Azeri highlands was beautiful, but it just was tough. Again, every car that I saw on the road in Azerbaijan for the first 2 days was a Lada. Now, I'm going to play...
Why they have heated rear windows?
To keep your hands warm when you push them. Yeah. Okay, so maybe I'll show you this one. Okay, so now in country number 16, Azerbaijan, and who would have thought, hey? Who would have thought? Azerbaijan, do you know where Azerbaijan is? I vaguely did, but technically still part of Europe. I mean, they're in Eurovision, so something. Are the Lada coming? Shalom! It's a guy in a vineyard. Yeah, technically still part of. Okay. I've realised I've got way too much stuff to show you guys tonight, so.
Why don't you do part 2?
I think I will have to, actually. I think I will. So we're almost at a round, so that might be a good spot to leave it. Keep you coming back for more. What else?
Why did you set out on this beach?
I was going to get to that at the end. That's in part 2. This guy, let me tell you about this guy. This guy was on a motorbike. He's Japanese, and he'd ridden his motorbike. He was heading from Japan to Portugal, and he'd been on the road 6 months, 7 months, no, something like this, about 7 months. And he had another 2 months. He had to get to Istanbul. He had to get to Portugal in order to get back to Japan because his wife was pregnant. So,
smartest man alive.
Yeah, Azerbaijan, beautiful, big mountains. I felt like I was in, some Western film out there.
How much camera equipment did you bring with you?
I had a little GoPro. That little GoPro, it's over there, and I had a Canon DSLR. I had this to record, to do audio. I had my phone as well, and I had a tripod. So not a whole load. Really. So this is the route that I took. This is where I got sick. This is the bus that I had to take the Trabs on. Then I cycled 2 days, had to get a train, and then I cycled through some pretty tough mountains to get to Baku, where my friend Laura was living and working. I'll just show you a few quick videos. If we are going to maybe not go all the way tonight, then is that okay? You can stick around, John, don't worry. We'll go all the way. Okay, so I got caught in the mist in Azerbaijan. vanished. Car's gone, disappeared. Bit later on that night. Okay. Wow, check that out. I'm in the middle of nowhere, in a cloud, in the dark. Even the cars are driving at like 5 kilometers an hour. It's really dangerous here. Still hadn't learned my lesson. Hopefully just over this hill is descent into Shemaki, and I can be safe for the night. Probably one of the most stupidest situations I put myself in this trip, and definitely probably one of the most dangerous. Sorry, Mum and Dad. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't see the road. It was just mist. It was dark. It was really freezing cold. I just, why do you do this to yourself, man? Actually, would you be alright if we just get to the end of Iran?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
And then the rest you can see on the videos and I can explain.
Oh no, we'll schedule another event. Yeah, do a part 2.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, officially, we'll get to the end of Iran. For anyone that wants to hang around, I can do a bit more, but for those who've got nightclubs to go to, because we're all that age still, aren't we? I've got so much to talk about in Iran as well, so maybe I'll just do a quick overview and then, yeah. Iran was my favourite country. It wasn't in the beginning, but it eventually became so. So when I left, 20 minutes? Can you do 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. This needs to be quicker. So I left Baku. My friend Laura gave me Orhan, which is anyway, you don't need to know why. That's we used to go to Ghana together. We were driving in a taxi one day. We saw this on the dashboard. We searched everywhere. She moved to Azerbaijan. She found these for sale, so she gave it, and that's why I stepped on the bike. Became a little what's the word? Mascot. That's the one. Okay. The first night out of Baku, I was heading south towards. This is the first few weeks of December, mind you, so it's really getting cold by then. Went to Gobelstan National Reserve, which has some really old rock carvings. 40,000 years old, Barry? You corrected me on this, didn't you? I said 100,000, but that's, yeah. Anyway, lots of really cool rock formations and really ancient carvings. And guarding it is this guy, Raphael. And I just went there and he said, oh, you don't have to leave, like the park's closed now, but you can camp here tonight if you want. This is his police chief, who very kindly drove me up to see the mud volcanoes, which was about 20 kilometers away.
Is this still in Azerbaijan?
This is in Azerbaijan still. And then I spent the night freezing cold up there, but Raphael was in his little security cabin, and I decided to sit in there, so we just sat in there, watched TV, and drank some beer with him and his mate, the other police officer. So that's what you do in Azerbaijan. This was a boat. He also took me out for a drive because there was a film being shot, an Iranian film being shot in the middle of nowhere at night time. It had lots of Russian models, so he was quite keen to take me out and show me this. This is the sunrise the next day. So that's the Caspian Sea. Lots of oil out there. This is a big puncture that I got on the whole way. Just to give you an overview, I've got 5 flat tires. I broke 7 spokes. That's pretty much it. This was a bad puncture that I got just as I reached Astara. So Astara is the town that spans both sides of the Azerbaijan-Iranian border. I also overstayed my visa in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan was the most expensive visa to get. It was something like £150, something like this. It was also I also had to pay £300 with the equivalent $300 US to get out of the country. Now they gave me the option. They said, "We know that you're a poor cyclist. We'll give you the option. We can deport you into Iran. Do you want to do this?" And I just thought, yes, okay, let's do it. Deport me into Iran. And at the last minute, I said, no, I can't do this because I liked Azerbaijan, I liked Georgia, and I actually wanted to come back. And I also didn't want to be able to get into Iran. And if something went wrong, I couldn't turn around and go back to Azerbaijan. So Crossed the border, absolutely no problem in Iran. Amazing. The Iranian police officers at the border, they were joking around, watching football, and then they saw me and they said, hey, when you go outside, be very careful. Very careful. I was like, oh, Iran, okay, what do I need to watch out? They said, when you go outside, just outside the door here, a big bunch of people, lots and lots of people. Don't exchange money with them. Go to a bit further down the road. There's a bit more of an official money exchange. You get a better rate there. That was the warning. I was expecting something much more serious than that. So this is my Iranian visa. So does anybody know what actually happened when I was in Iran? The first week or so? For those that don't, now I'd been pushing my luck a long way. As you can see in Azerbaijan, getting caught in the mist over the mountains, and my luck ran out eventually. And unfortunately, it was in Iran. And I was really reluctant to tell everyone this because I knew that everyone was worried already, like going into Iran, oh, you know, this is dangerous, what are you doing? This is, you know, bad things are going to happen. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Obviously, I got mugged, but apart from getting mugged, it was the friendliest country. The people were so genuine. They'd invite me in, they'd stop me on the side of the road, and they have picnics, and they'd get all their food out, and they give me all the food they have, give me their phone number, say, come and stay with us for the next few nights. Absolute hospitality was just next level compared to all the countries I've been through, and had been progressively getting friendlier and friendlier, but Iran was just amazing. So I was kind of reluctant to tell people that I actually got mugged. And I was riding up over a mountain range. I'd already ridden a big long day, and I decided instead of just stopping after sunset, I'd do basically 2 days in one to get to the next town. Rode over this mountain, again in the mist, in the dark, middle of nowhere, about 40k outside the town of Gazvin. 3 bandits jumped out of nowhere with masks on. They were young guys, but they were just chances. I don't think at the time they realised I was actually a cyclist. I think they just thought I was someone on a moped, some young kid. They were trying to push me off the bike and nick my mobile phone or something. But they got more than they bargained for. And I was screaming and yelling and stuff. And when I look back on it now, I was actually really lucky that they didn't have any weapons or something. But I also think I did a pretty good job. I sort of scared them away. They ran off into the night. Got away with my GoPro, my little camera, which I'd been filming everything up to that point. Also took my GPS, which had been measuring my route. So I was pretty annoyed at that, but on balance. Huh?
Should have kept the compass.
So I jumped on the bike, I was shaking, but I needed to get to safety. Up ahead I could see some lights, and it turned out it was the beginning of a tollway into Gazvin. This is the guy that worked there. He didn't speak any English, but I sort of relayed the fact I've been mugged. Can I wait here, jump on the back of a ute next time a truck passes, and they can take me into town because I don't want to cycle anymore. His boss decided, maybe we should just call the police, let them know what's happened. This is at 10 o'clock at night. At 5 in the morning, I was still in the police station. I'd been interviewed by the police chief, the area police chief, and a whole bunch of other people. No one spoke English. And they're trying to work out what's actually happened. And I was like, that's just fine. I'm really tired now. And I went through phases of sort of being really helpful with them. Then I was getting really angry with them. And eventually, they found somewhere for me to stay. They said, really nice hotel in town. We take you there, 5 a.m. 2 detectives drove me there. And they were very funny detectives, given the situation. The only English words they could say were dog and pig, and they would say it at each other, like these two sort of comedy sidekicks, like, hey, you dog, you pig, yeah. I ended up staying in the police compound, which was their version of the hotel, for the next two days, while they tried to figure out exactly what had happened. They were saying they were going to try and find people who'd stolen this from me, and they were just here to help me out. And now I think back, I think they probably were, but already going into Iran, you have this massive paranoia. And it's self-fed. It comes from the media and everything that we see. But when I think back on it, maybe there were people following me, but they're police. They don't want a foreigner to get in trouble, so it's in their best interest to do that. But it really played on my mind for the first 2 weeks in Iran, and I thought a lot of the time I was getting followed and stuff, and it just started sort of, I was getting worn out cycling as well, but mentally I was sort of getting worn down, and this really wasn't helping. Then this guy came along, Money, who spoke English. He was a translator. I also think he might be like secret police as well, but he became my best friend. He's been, what do you call it when you have to go to police or the army for 2 years? He's conscripted, yes. Really super smart guy, wants to move to Milan and study literature. Just look at him, suave as hell. So Mani Kevgalia is his name, and this is the rest of the police cadets who are training to be police. Eventually, after 2 days there, I said, look, I need to go. This is not really going anywhere. I think they thought I might also be a spy because I'd lost a little tiny camera, a GPS thing that had been tracking where I'd been. And most of the routes we ran, I passed like nuclear power plants and things like this. So, you know, eventually I said, look, I need to go. They wrote this out for me, which is like a contract. I just signed, got out of there. I've got no idea what this says. So if anyone can read Farsi, then you could help me out.
It says you're a spy, send
Yeah.
back details about
I don't think I'll go through all the way through Iran, actually. I think I'll leave it just after this. I finally got to leave, like late that afternoon. I'd said, I'm going to leave at 10, Yeah, just come do a few other things. Come back to the police station today. And I got to know all the police officers and the chiefs and the detectives. And we were very friendly. We couldn't really communicate much, but it was a good vibe. But my paranoia was sort of overriding all of this. Went back, eventually I said, look, I need to go. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sign this bit of paper, I'm out of here. But before I had to do that, I had to go through all the local druggies on file, try and spot who it was. And I also had to do an identikit, like a draw-up of who, like what did their eyes look like, what did their nose look like. I didn't really see these guys very much. It was just sort of in the dark, gone. But I had a go at it. Before I had a go at it though, I had to show the guys how to load the CD-ROM onto the computer. So actually, I was sitting there installing the software on an Iranian detective's computer.
True spy.
Yeah. So I left that afternoon. I rode towards Karaj, which is just on the outskirts of Tehran, where a friend of Sadar actually lived. So it was a contact, and I stayed with her and her family. The loveliest family in this beautiful big apartment. But in order to get there, it was getting dark again. I was riding along, thought, okay, I'm free, I'm out of Gazvin, heading towards Tehran. Iran's ahead of me, this is great, you know. Positive mental attitude, good. Cycling along, about half an hour out of Gazvin, I hear a noise behind me. And I looked this way, I couldn't see anything. I looked this way, and there's no guardrail on the side of the road, but there's a big drop-off. Maybe about this far to the ground. Big dirt, I think they're widening the highway or something. But I see a car flipping end over end behind me. No more than sort of 15, 20 meters behind me. Flipping end over end. 3 ladies in there, and a young girl. They were all okay eventually. Some of them had cuts to their heads. I sort of went over, tried to help, couldn't get the doors open. Loads of Iranians sort of stopped their cars and came and helped out. I realised I wasn't actually much use there. And I also realised that I didn't want to get involved with the police again. So I made my way back to the petrol station about 200 yards back down the road, reported it, said, call the police, this has happened. And then I flagged down a ute and jumped in and said, I can't ride anymore today. I've almost been knocked off my bike again. The driver, I'm really sad I couldn't get a photo of him, because have you ever seen Trains, Planes and Automobiles? Yeah. You know the scene where John Candy's smoking and playing the piano on the dashboard? That's seriously what this guy looked like. He was smoking a cigarette, really tiny car, his steering wheel was up on his beer gut like this. And I couldn't stop laughing. I think it was because, again, I'd almost been wiped off the road, but yeah, high on life again. So I made it to Tehran. That's where I'm going to leave it officially for tonight, okay?
You will do part 2 though, right?
I hope so.
Sign a contract.
Sorry, that's 2 hours. Sorry, guys. There's a whole load I want to say. It's a year trying to compress it into one night. It's just never going to happen. I will eventually get around to doing all the videos. There's a lot in that which will explain more details as well. I will try and do another talk for the remainder as well. Is there any just general questions that you sort of want to know?
Did you reach a point where you thought you were halfway?
Did I reach a point where I thought?
Well, when you were on the journey, was there a point where you worked out this is halfway?
It wasn't until I got to India that I thought I would actually cycle across Australia. I thought maybe I'd just get to India, run out of money, which is actually what I ended up doing, and just fly back to Brisbane, which is where my family is. I didn't realise, at the time, I didn't think I was going to cycle across Australia as well, which is what I did. So after this, I went through Iran. I flew, took my first flight from Shiraz to Abu Dhabi. Then I flew from Abu Dhabi after I got my Indian visa. Went to the Jaipur Literature Festival, worked there for a week with Rodri. Met loads of really cool Indian friends, which helped me out for the next 3 months because I was in India for 3 months. Took 2 months off the bike because I was really worn out from cycling. Put my bike, left it at a friend's house, just left it in a box. Travelled around with my sister for a month, then travelled down, got a train down to Goa, met up with a friend who I met in Iran, another cyclist. Second person that I cycled with. Other than that, it was the whole trip I was on my own. We cycled from Goa down to Kerala for 2 weeks, did 1,000 kilometres. And then I flew from Kerala to Perth, and then I cycled 5,500 kilometres across Australia in 9 weeks. And the Australian stuff is really good, and the video stuff I'm particularly proud of, because by that point I'd become much more confident. I was sort of almost creating little scenes as well, and I find it quite funny. You probably would just think it's really self-indulgent, but
You do part 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This time next week.
What else?
Did you ever run out of food?
Yeah, and I would sing songs when I was really starving. Yeah, and when I get to the next town, I'm going to buy everything they've got in this shop, and they wouldn't have anything, so I'd go hungry.
How did you back up all your photos and things like that? Did you lose much when you got robbed?
Luckily, I backed stuff up. So when I got to Baku, I'd backed up stuff on a couple of hard drives and sent them on, or sent it back to my family in Australia. When I went through Iran, my British passport, my laptop, quite a few things. Luckily, my friend Laura, who lived in Baku, her boyfriend, who's now her husband, lived in Dubai. But at that time, they both came back to London and met up for Christmas. So it was perfect for me. I gave stuff to Laura. She took it back to London, gave it to Doug. Doug flew it to Abu Dhabi. So by the time I got to Abu Dhabi, I picked up my laptop, picked up my British passport, fooled the Iranian officials.
How much?
Sorry, I didn't answer the question, did I? 3 days? 5 days of footage I missed from Baku to when I got mugged. And then, unfortunately, because I didn't have a small camera for Iran, which is probably a good thing. I just had my bigger camera. So there is a bit of footage, but there's not much footage through Iran, unfortunately, because I lost the camera. One of the things I'm really annoyed at is when I got deported from Azerbaijan, I had to go back 40 kilometers to the nearest town to do all the paperwork and stuff. And I got a taxi. Guess what the car was? It's the first time I'd actually ever been in a Lada. I got a bit obsessed with Lada. My next trip, if you don't know, I'm trying to do a trip from somewhere to somewhere in an old Lada. I'm going to call it Whole Lada Love. Cheesy. But I can't drive, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to film myself learning to drive and spend time with my friends when I go back to Australia this summer. So that's the next thing, but that probably won't happen for at least 18 months, if not longer. So,
how much spare bike repair kit So you said you had a few flat tires. How many, like, did you have a spare chain or anything like that?
No,
How
no
many
spare
tools?
chain. Only had a spare tire across the Nullarbor in Australia. The rest of the time, I never went. It was never that remote. And unfortunately, I was really looking forward to finding these remote places. In Iran, there was some place. I went through the desert, and it was the perfect time. I wanted to. I was feeling a bit with the paranoia and everything. I was thinking, actually, this would be a really good time to have some other company. And just the very next day, to a French and Argentinian couple, we sort of bumped into each other. They went, "Hey, how you going?" And I was on my bike. They weren't on bikes, and I was like, "Hey guys, how you going?" And I didn't realize they were so excited because they were also cyclists. So we spent a week cycling from Esfahan through the desert to Yazd, and that was one of my favorite parts of the whole trip. What did I tell you that for?
Spare equipment, remote
Spare equipment.
places.
That was quite remote. And
yeah, but presumably it had a chain snap while you were in a cloud at the top of Macedonia. You might have been in trouble.
I would have, yeah. But luckily, I wasn't.
Fair.
So. The reason I said that, sorry, is when I got to Perth in Australia, I said to myself, the trip's almost over now. Like, if there's anything you want to get out of this journey that you haven't achieved yet, now's the time to do it. And one of the main things was I hadn't found that really isolated stretch where I could just, no phone, no connection to anything. I was just self-reliant. I camped for 2 weeks straight. Went across the Nullarbor, really remote. By the time I got across the Nullarbor, that was it. That was the final thing I needed to sort of tick off the list. And then the remaining month from Adelaide to Brisbane was sort of familiar territory for me. So I was kind of winding down on the trip, and I was getting tired, and I was just looking forward to getting home. So who needs to come back next week? There you go.
So like now you've spent a year on the road. How does it make you look at your life like differently?
Oh, you have to come back. I've got maybe the videos are better, like when you. Okay. I'm just much more confident, and I think I'm a better version of myself. I'm a nicer person because of it. London sort of. I don't want to say London because I don't want to be London bashing, but just being in big cities and stuff. I mean, I was here for 11 years. And towards the end, like I used to work here for those who don't know. And that was good, but yeah, because I left from Southbank. But I just thought there was something more. And I've always wanted to, I was the kid who sort of looked at atlases when I was growing up, and I sort of wanted to, oh, what's here, what's at this dot, and what's at the dot next to it, and sort of imagine where you go. And this was the journey where I could do that. I could join the dots. It wasn't about A or B or C, it was about the space in between. So.
Did you manage to let go? Were you conscious of the moment when you were lagging behind?
Yeah. After Munich, I let London go. And sorry, guys, I didn't think of you very much. No, I did. I thought of you guys all the time. But I didn't think of London. I didn't miss London itself as a place, but I missed my friends. So the only other thing I really need to say is thank you so much to all you guys. Because, yeah, it's a constant battle between sort of, not looking at your phone and stuff and going, oh yeah, I've got lots of likes on this photo. I know it sounds a bit stupid, but that actually, when you're freezing cold in the middle of nowhere in your tent, that makes such a big difference. And you go, actually, this is, people care about me. So that's, thank you so much. Officially, that's it. If you want to stick around and ask questions.
Colin.
I didn't know you were coming.